Zangpo and welcome to Bhutan This Week. I am Pamhadan. Our top stories for the week. The liquidity of some banks worsened following the revision of risk percentage on major loans by the RMA. Significant discussion took place around religious rituals at the annual Lamnetans conference held last week. Promises by the party candidates regarding Samdro in Merak Sakting are being met with skepticism. Following the revision of the risk percentage on major loans by the Royal Monetary Authority, the liquidity of some of the banks has worsened. The only alternative for the banks is to either recapitalize or issue shares to improve their liquidity. But pumping in more money by existing shareholders to raise capital will not sustain banks, says the president of Financial Institution Association of Bhutan. Some of the banks still continue to suspend their loans after increasing the risk percentage on loans by the Royal Monetary Authority. It was increased by 200 to 300%, and it applies to loans given for services and tourism, housing and transportation and personal loans. This means higher the risk percentage, higher will be the capital required by the banks, affecting the capital adequacy ratio. The only means to raise capital base for the banks is to get more money by issuing additional shares or by pumping in more money by the shareholders. However, according to the president of the Financial Institutions Association of Bhutan, Kipchut, it is a difficult task for the banks to raise their capital given the economic situation now.
All the income has to come from the credit thing. But growth can be limited only because of the deposit front. There is very little growth. So the deposit growth is only in the individual deposits, which is very, all of us are fighting for that share, and it is not going to help the economy. On the other hand, we may even increase the deposit rate and, attract more customers. But in the end, when any one financial institution does that, the other one has to increase it. And ultimately what will happen is the spread, the margin for the financial institutions will squeeze. And when you squeeze the spread, then your profit also will be squeezed accordingly.
Besides Bhutan National Bank and Bhutan Development Bank, other banks are having problem to maintain the minimum requirement of capital adequacy ratio, which is 10%. Meanwhile, the president also partly blames the increasing number of banks for current rupee and the liquidity crunch. The president added it doesn't really make sense to have too many banks. Further, he added, going by the international standard for a population of 700,000, even one bank is sufficient.
In the past, when there was only two banks, the liquidity crunch was never a problem. The rupee crunch was never a problem. But with the coming of the two new banks and also converting BDFC into a bank, that has driven the credit to the limit. And there was a lot of competition in giving the loans in the past, before 2012. But since 2012, I think we have been aware of the problems. And then there has been restrictions from the central bank too. So that has, I think, impacted the economy as a whole. Even on to the growth rate, I'm sure that it must have an impact on the growth rate of the economy as a whole.
The president said it is crucial for both the monetary and the fiscal policy to move in same direction. Kipchut added tightening the financial institutions alone will not help curtail rupee outflow and help in liquidity situation. The central bank issued the directive last month to mainly curb and regulate credit growth. Pema for BBS News. Religious rituals were among the more important issues discussed at the 4th annual Lamnetan conference held in Thimphu last week. The Lamnetans shared that it was important to conduct daily rituals to avoid natural calamities and to ultimately ensure peace in the country. The Samdrup Zonkar Lamnetan Sonam Tenzin said it was important to have an annual meet so that problems faced at the Zonkak level could be discussed and solved. On the concluding day of the conference, last Friday, the Lamnetans also offered 1,000 butter lamps at the Kyunre of the Tashichozong for the victims of the flash flood in Uttarakhand in India. The Highlanders of Merak and Sakting in Tashigang are skeptical about DPT and PTP candidates promising to solve the Tsamdro issue. The Tsamdro has been a cause of discord in the community, especially after the Land Act of Bhutan 2007 regularized Tsamdro as the government land.
Tsamdros fall under the government land as per the Land Act of Bhutan 2007. This has caused a lot of confusion and dispute among the Highlanders who depend on livestock for their livelihood. The deputy government, while in power, tried to amend the act but was pushed to the next government in power as it needs more deliberation. Although the Highlanders have been asked to use their Tsamdros as it is, it created a lot of inconveniences and disputes among them. Even when the two candidates are now promising to solve the problem, the Highlanders are still skeptical.
If our
Tsamdro right is given to us like in the past, then we will have no problem. If what we are hearing is true, we heard that government is trying to allocate Tsamdro according to the number of cattle that we own. Then it will create more problems. Before the Land Act 2007, we had no problem at all. Everything was peaceful then.
Both the parties are saying that they will resolve the Tsamdro problem, but I think it will be difficult. This is because the former government failed to resolve the issue and we are doubtful why it is not resolved from 2008. So we are doubtful if the new government would solve it.
If government can solve the problem, it will benefit us a lot. This is because there is no other means of livelihood for us than our dairy business.
In the meantime, as the community prepares to vote for the new government, they are concerned whether the Land Act will be amended in their favor or not. Their only hope from the new government is to retrieve the full traditional rights over the Tsamdros. Compiled for Pem Namge, Sanofunso for BBS News.
As the polling day draws nearer, political gossip and debate have become ever rampant. Even youth are in thick of it. Politics is the major topic of discussion among youth in Serang. Our reporter Ishing Yudup has this story.
Youth and students in Serang are no more discussing about usual teenage topics in school these days. The discussions are now more serious as they discuss politics. Turning 18, they said, is a major privilege as they can vote for the new government.
Being the citizen of this country, it's our duty to elect the best political party who can serve the country and its people. I'm very happy to get this opportunity, and I don't want to neglect this privilege. So I will visit my constituency and vote for the right party.
One vote makes the difference. So if youth could not vote, there might be some differences. So it's very important.
In the meantime, few new student voters who had applied for postal ballots were disappointed as their applications were rejected.
If we go all the way to Lindsay, it will take us more than 3 days, and even if we go there to vote, we fear that we may not be able to come back to the school on time. I feel very disappointed for not being able to vote this time. I can vote only after 5 years now.
According to the school principal, few of the students were not able to fill in the forms due to lack of correct information on time. He added less than 100 students are now eligible to vote.
We have advised the eligible students to participate in the general round of election and requested them to go to their polling stations and vote.
According to the Election Commission of Bhutan, there are over 70,900 male and 77,600 female voters from the age group between 18 to 30 in the country. Compiled for Ishinirup, Sonofunso for BBS News.
The people of Damji in Khamit under Gasa Dzongkhag are not happy with the Dzongkhag administration's response to the flash flood last year.
Heavy rainfall on 20 June last year caused a flash flood and mudslide, damaging paddy fields, irrigation channels and even drinking water supply. Before the floods, farmers used to grow a variety of vegetables and cultivate paddy. Some farmers were even selling vegetables to Pinaka and even as far south as Finseling.
We used to grow lots of vegetables and paddy. We could even produce a truck of potatoes for sale.
Our hope is that the Dzongkhag will provide an excavator to remove all the mud, tree trunks and boulders from our fields so that we can cultivate on our lands again.
The people have been complaining that the Dzongkhag administration has not made any rehabilitative efforts.
After the flood, the Dzongkhag administration told us that they will clear the land with excavators, but that hasn't been done. If the excavators had cleared the mud and sand, we could have slowly made our fields cultivable.
Sometimes we feel neglected by the government as if we are not part of 20 Dzongkhags. We are quite upset.
The Dzongkhag administration maintains that it has been helping the flood-affected area. The Gasa Dzongda Sonam Jimmy in fact says the Dzongkhag responded immediately.
When we heard of the flash flood, I with the Dzongkhag administration rushed to the area. Almost everything and everyone had been affected. We made sure from outside that safe drinking water was made available straight away.
The Dzongkhag Agriculture Office with the National Soil Center has meanwhile found that the land which was affected by the flood cannot be reused for agriculture. All the fertile topsoil has been washed away. Even then, the Dzongkhag Agriculture Office provided vegetable seedlings from the National Disaster Management Fund. As part of the restorative plan, the Dzongkhag is eligible to provide substitute land for cultivation, says the Gasa Dzongda.
We will arrange substitute land if the people tell us where they can cultivate. If they want cash compensation instead of land, we can also arrange that.
A total of 11.87 acres of wetland and 5.1 acres of dry land belonging to 48 households have been affected by mudslide and flash flood. Compiled for Kinzang Chile, Sonam Hamo for BBS News.
The government of Japan has extended a grant of over 630 million Nultrum for rehabilitation of Taklai irrigation system in Sarpang. The agreement was signed last Friday in the capital.
The grant agreement was signed between JICA Bhutan Office Chief Representative Yumiko Asakuma and the Secretary of Gross National Happiness Commission, Karma Seltram. The assistance to implement the project comes after the government made a formal request to Japan during the 6th bilateral consultation in 2011. The chief representative of JICA Bhutan said it is Japan's priority to assist agriculture sector in Bhutan.
Agriculture is one of the important sector for Japanese government to assist the government of Bhutan. And this project is the first irrigation project by the grant aid here in Bhutan. I hope that this project will be benefit by for the people, rural people in Taklai.
Considered as the country's largest irrigation scheme, Taklai irrigation system is located along the river Taklai, which flows through two gyeoks of Chuzigang and Shershong under Gyalpha Dongkhag in Sarpang. According to the executive engineer from the Department of Agriculture, Karma Chetar, although this irrigation facility was established in 1990, it remained unproductive due to damages caused by successive flooding of Taklai River.
Although on our part, we tried our best to come up with technical solutions. We put in a lot of resources in terms of money as well as human resources over the past almost 10 years, but so far it has not been effective.
Now, with this grant amount, the government plans to build a robust, durable irrigation technique that will have lasting impact to farmers. These areas along the Taklai River are known for their potential in rice production.
It has a lot of potential to benefit the local community in terms of achieving their household food security, especially rice being the main crop. And with this project in place, there will be we are hopeful that there will be a assured supply of irrigation water throughout the year, not just during the paddy season. And there is also a possibility now that we will have assured irrigation water that interested farmers can also go for double cropping of rice in the winter because the climate is very favorable down there.
The rehabilitation project of Taklai irrigation system is expected to irrigate over 3,200 acres of paddy fields and benefit 500 households with food. Sonam Funso for PBS News.
After a huge row over truck parking fees, truckers and the Finsiling Tromde have finally reached an agreement. The parking fees have been settled at 18 nultrim for 24 hours parking and 15 nultrim for 2 hours or less. This decision comes after about a month since the issue first surfaced.
The Finsiling Tromde had initially decided the rates at 265 nultrum for 24 hours and 25 nultrum for 2 hours or less. However, since the rates were fixed without any consultation with the truck owners and drivers, they refused to comply. Later, after the truckers filed a petition, the rates were brought down to nultrum 150 for 24 hours. The rate was still not accepted by the truckers to bear and they appealed again on 21st June. And it was finally decided at 18 nultrum for 24 hours. Tromde office said the rates were revised in consideration of the truckers' grievances. They however added that with the new rates, the operation and maintenance cost of the parking space are not financially sustainable. Meanwhile, business communities and corporate agencies have also requested the Tromde to bring down the prepaid parking rates from 3,000 nultrum to 1,250 nultrum per month. Compiled for Sormongdi, Karmatring, BVS News.
The Royal Bhutan Police initiated the Open Air program earlier this year to recognize exemplary behavior among the prisoners and help them reintegrate into society. 30 prisoners were sent to Paro in the first phase of the program in March and recently more than 100 to Paro and Ha. Ishi Gelson has this story.
Here in Itogemba in Paro, 31 prisoners have been serving their remaining prison term working for the reconstruction of the Gemba which was damaged in an earthquake. 30 prisoners were sent here 3 months ago in the first phase of the open-air prison program started by the Royal Bhutan Police, and 1 more prisoner was sent here recently in the second phase of the program. The main aim of the program is to help remove the stigma that the prisoners have and to help them get back into society as well as to change the attitude and the behavior of the prisoners.
34-year-old Sonam from Chukha is among the first batch of prisoners who were sent to Itogemba 3 months ago. After spending more than 12 years in prison, he says he is deeply grateful for having been given another chance.
Firstly, I'm thankful to their majesties, the king and the Fort Togelpo. And secondly, to the chief of police for giving us this opportunity. We are working as hard as we can.
Sonam says life is much better here where he gets to meet his wife and children without restrictions. He also says he feels fortunate to be able to help with the reconstruction of the Gyamba.
Before, when I was in prison, I could not even see my child's face. But after coming here, I called my wife and I got to meet her and my children.
27-year-old Lekki from Mongar was also sent here in the first batch. He says it feels good socializing with others instead of being locked away. Although he has no wife or children, he says he is happy to be able to meet his parents without any time limits.
I do not have wife or child, but getting to meet my parents without any restriction has made me very happy. When they come to visit, they can stay here for days.
The prisoners work 6 days a week from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. They are also paid a daily wage of Niltram 100 by the monastery. The principal of the Gyamba, Lam Chawang, says there have been no problems with the prisoners. But he says the Gyamba itself is in dire need of financial help.
There have been no problems with the reconstruction works. It has, however, been difficult to find funds and sponsors.
The 17th century monastery was severely damaged by the 2011 earthquake. There are about 400 monks at the Gyamba. Yishe Gelson for BBS News, Paro.
Team Damchen are the defending champions of the Coronation Silver Jubilee Archery Tournament. The team defeated Team Yarke in the final played at the Chamlimthang Archery Range in Thimphu on Monday.
Hundreds of people gathered to witness the match played at Chamlimthang Archery Range today. Team Damchen defeated Team Yarke in 2 straight sets, 25-17, 25-11. A T-shirt wristwatch each was awarded to the winners and runners-up players. Other individual prizes for the one-day highest courage, highest objects, best archer and man of the match were also awarded. A total of 29 teams participated in the tournament. It was organized by the Bhutan Indigenous Games and Sports Association. Karmat Singh, PBS News.
Dorje Namgyal Rinchen and Nobu El Sring are the winners of the annual golf tournament. Both winners were awarded iPads. The 3-day tournament, which ended last Sunday, saw a total of 90 golfers taking part. Organized by Pendant Cement Authority Limited, the tournament has been an annual event for 6 years now. That was a look at the week gone by with Pemal Hatton. Thank you for being with us.